Hi there. I think I'll kick off now. I see some more people are kind of connecting as we go through, but that's absolutely fine. And yeah, today we're going to be looking through how to market your services effectively. We're based off my experience. So for those that don't know me, I'm Sam. I head up the account management team here at Featually. I've been here for a couple of years now. I see some familiar faces on the call and some new ones as well. So yeah, thanks for joining today. Obviously, as you can see, I am working from home, as I'm sure a lot of you are as well. So the standard sort of checks, if you don't know already, I've got a small little dog that likes to bark at things. So if he does go crazy, if the internet does drop off or something, which hasn't yet, and all these ones that we've done, we will just reconnect. So fingers crossed, touch wood. But yeah, standard sort of things to be aware of there. Um, if you have any questions as we go through the session, then do use the Q&A function of Zoom. I'll probably come to them at the end of the session. We've got a full hour back booked out, but we probably won't need all of that. Maybe even 20, 30 minutes of content. We'll see how we get on. And then we've got time for Q&A when needed. So yeah, but we've got that time booked out in case it's required. I will also send out the recording after the session, as well as any material that I think is relevant. So you should have everything at your fingertips following today's session. So yeah, let me share my screen and we'll have a look. Cool. So as I mentioned, and obviously as you know, otherwise you wouldn't be here, we're going to be looking through how to market your services effectively. And the first key point for this is the positioning. One thing that I hear quite a bit at Futurely and just kind of a software providers really is if a client, for example, doesn't quite get Futurely or the work you're presenting to them, maybe an excuse I hear sometimes is that my clients don't want it, or how do I sell it? That's kind of the wrong way that we would advise you go about it, because as it says there on that first bullet point, you're not selling expertise. Sorry, you are selling expertise. You're not selling software. So it's not a case of trying to resell Futurely. You're simply just using it as an extension of the services that you're providing. The moment we start going down that path of my client doesn't want it, or how can I sell Futurely, then that's kind of the wrong way to position it. Simply, we're just using Futurely to enable those better discussions. We're already engaging in those advisory discussions. Maybe you've been using Excel before, or a different platform, or maybe even it's a new area that you're getting into. And just by using Futurely, we're able to allow those discussions to take place. By using Futurely, for example, we're able to show the data in a really visual way and able to forecast out really efficiently. And that's the sort of discussions that we can have with that client anyway. It's just that we've been able to enable those better discussions. So the key thing really throughout the whole of this is that just remember that you're selling the expertise. That's what your clients are coming to you for. They're coming to you for you. It's not necessarily the software that you're using to enable those discussions. And we want to be focusing on the insight, so not just the data. So when presenting information to a client, again, something that to come up with some of my partners is sending out a report, and then that's just kind of done and dusted. What we need to do, a key thing with advisory in inverted commas, is to engage in that data, to really understand what's going on with it, focus on that insight. So therefore, a call like this or face-to-face in the months to come, we can start to analyze that insight. So what does that drop in sales mean? How does a loan affect future plans? What does this trend mean? Does it compare with the last year? What's our actual budget? Again, that client is with you for the insight, really, not just the report. We need to understand really what that report means to the client. And in that discussion, that's where we can open up loads of different doors and see where that takes us. Because a report is certainly a good step, but being able to kind of navigate your way through it, I think is a key thing as well. That obviously your client might not be able to spot those insights that that you can provide. So don't just look at the data. We need to start to interpret it and really start to see what that means for the client. Because even if we see a trend, the client might be able to give a specific reason or a plan behind what happened and be able to evolve that discussion with you. So I think they're kind of key points there. And when you're obviously marketing your services, I think branding is a very important thing to get right. So as I mentioned kind of on the previous slide, taking technology out of the equation is important. Again, it's not about necessarily on your kind of website kind of highlighting kind of different technology that you're working with. It's just about the service that you're providing. Certainly graphics can help. They just effectively show the advisory work that you can work through. By separating yourself from the competition is a key thing with branding as well. Because what we're doing is strengthening the value offered to clients by using kind of these key bits of kind of advisory discussions. We're able to really present some key value to the client. It's not about kind of reselling any sort of software. We're simply branding yourself as a trusted advisor. So that's the end result that we're wanting to be or wanting to strengthen is making ourselves stand out with an array of efficient tools to help us, but that's not the forefront. What we're trying to do is certainly be there to support our clients, be there to help them when needed, and really be that trusted advisor. So I'm going to link to a video which hopefully the sound works. I'm actually going to double check that. Let me stop sharing. I think when I shared my screen, I didn't share with the sound, which you're going to need for this. So bear me one sec. Cool. Now we've got the sound. But what this is effectively is a case study from a client of Futurely's that I think has positioned their branding, the way they use their tools in a really cool way. And that quote there, we provide the advice, not just the tools, I think kind of sums up what we've just been talking about for the last 10 or so minutes.
Satellite is an advisory solution provided by chartered accountants. It's for the businesses who want to access information in real time and who are looking for growth opportunities. It's a team of accountants that look at your data. It's not just providing you with the data, it's interpreting that data.
What makes Satellite special is that we actually operate as a satellite office to our clients. We actually form part of the client's team and we're always available to the client.
Well, Satellite effectively is the next generation of accounting solutions. So for business operators as well as for accountants, there's a huge smorgasbord of options out there. And what we're finding with our clients is that there's so much choice out there and sometimes even competing products in the same area of need that it's very hard to select what's the right one.
We come in, we set up the systems and the processes so that you can access that information in a timely way. You can access that information on your mobile phone, on your laptop, wherever you are.
And what we're doing is structuring that around a process, hence the term Satellite. And the idea is to use that technology to give real-time information that's relevant and is structured around the client's needs and also not just their general needs, but their operational needs and their strategic needs as well.
The platform is fully customizable to suit the business owner's particular needs. We can create bespoke budgets and forecasting, and we can produce that on a monthly or quarterly basis. And we can also take care of payroll and bookkeeping services on their behalf.
We provide the advice, not just the tools.
Cool. Let me just jump back into that. So hopefully you found that useful. I thought, like I said, it's just a really good way to start to present and use the branding that you have on offer. Cool. Don't want to watch that again. We'll go back to the slides. Cool. That should be correct. Cool. So yeah, obviously marketing is what we're kind of here talking about, and there's different ways that we can approach that. So email marketing is certainly a very common one, but one thing that certainly we look to do, even a feature when we're speaking with clients, to keep it relevant. It's the same thing when producing a report for a client. We don't want to produce a report that doesn't really speak to them, doesn't identify, doesn't speak to their pain or resolve their issue. So keeping it relevant is key, because when we're sending information out, it'd be a waste of both people's time, both the accountants and the clients, if it's not relevant for them. So simply just by acknowledging the client base that you have through conversations, making sure that that content that is being sent out does really look to resolve an issue, or does really kind of speak to them in one way. With website branding, certainly wanted to keep it kind of fresh and clean. There's obviously many different ways you can brand a website, and I'm certainly not a website branding expert, but ensuring that it effectively is an extension of what you're looking to offer, I think, is really key. So making advisory services is obviously what we're kind of here discussing, a key component of your website, so they understand and that's the service that you're looking to provide. Is certainly important. Having regular content on there as well. So case studies to your clients, keywords as well for the search engines to be picking up on, I think is really important. Keeping it, like I said, they're fresh, not out of date. Having that content that you're speaking to your clients, but just effectively using it in your website to help kind of shout about what you're doing, and really explain all of that. As well as social media. Certainly, obviously, this is where we consume a lot of our data, but the key thing with this, it needs to be useful content. I was listening to a webinar the other day, and talking about social media posts and so forth, and it's certainly important that there's so much going on in the world of social media. It's the amount of kind of data that's sent out to us, but as long as that data that you're sending out is useful, then we can certainly use it. We can look to social media as overkill at times, but as long as, like I said, the information really does speak to your clients, does solve a pain, then there's no reason why we can't just use that on a daily basis, for example, to clients. And another way of getting kind of content out there to clients, like we're kind of doing today, is webinars and also events as well when that's possible. But a key thing with that is to ensure that we track kind of who's attending these sessions, what value are they getting out of it, are they asking any questions, how engaged they are, because we want to be able to potentially follow up with those clients. Maybe we need to see how they engaged and use that to model future events and future activity. Something that we do here at Futurely. So these webinars, for example, that we've been running, we've been molding them off kind of client feedback and attendance rates, and then using that to speak with our clients and move that forward. So always trying to kind of understand, I suppose, the analysis behind that content. But it's key that we are tracking them. And so if we're sending material out, we want to ensure that we know who's using it, who's consuming it. So ensuring that's key there. And then finally, word of mouth is arguably the holy grail, how to increase referral rates. Obviously, there's ways that we can do it. There's kind of referral schemes and things you might implement. But I suppose all of the above is really working down to the word of mouth, ensuring that the reviews are really positive. And if you do get a review that's kind of strong, maybe someone just left you a 5-star review on Google, using that. All content that's sent out doesn't have to obviously end in a sale or end in a sort of a meeting booked, for example. It can just be a kind of a highlighting of what you're doing, like a bit of a case study or a good experience. So I think using that is certainly going to be kind of interesting for the people that you're speaking with. And with marketing, I suppose, comes pricing. And it's a question that I get quite a bit with my portfolio of clients. And certainly the key thing, I suppose, with pricing is that pricing by the hour is something of the past, and we should be looking to price by value. because if we're using efficient tools, then price by the hour is just not going to be kind of beneficial for you guys. If you're using Receipt Bank, if we're be able to build out a forecast in seconds using Futurely, then price by the hour is kind of the old school sort of approach with it. But there isn't a silver bullet with pricing. People have different views in it, and kind of the way that I approach it with people I speak with is having like a 3-step approach of having a setup fee, a monthly recurring fee, and then any amendment fees as well on top of that, because that then allows you to still price by the value. You're pricing on the job in hand, but we've kind of covered all bases, I suppose. Because if we lock a client into maybe a fee that's just been agreed for a forecast, that forecast needs to be changed, amended. We need to account for that, because as that last point on the slide there says, we don't want to be working for free. So there's time for free elements like little tastes and things, but I think having that 3-step approach has worked quite well with my partners in my portfolio. And another suggestion of how we can approach it is, I know some other partners at Futurely have gone with this approach, is having like a tiered suggestion and menu pricing. So you might have, for example, 3 different tiers of service. So obviously being very basic, kind of maybe the most common one that people go for, and then like a premium one. But then having menu pricing, so you could then kind of dip services in and out of those tiers and make it work for the client. I think the key thing with pricing there is that it needs to be flexible, because there are those approaches that I mentioned there of having the 3-pronged attack of setup fee, monthly recurring fee, amendment fee, tiered suggestions, but all of them are just suggestions. We need to make sure that we're pricing that value for the client, because each client is different. Each client is going to need something different, and they're going to be different sizes, requiring different outputs. So I think having a price range can really help with that as well. So instead of having a set price for a quarterly review, we could have a range, because in that quarterly review, clients might want something different, because we need to be always flexible with pricing. I think a good approach, like I mentioned there, is having those tiered suggestions, so at least clients know what sort of ballpark they're in. But effectively, we're positioning the value of the work that you're doing ahead of the cost to that client through the marketing, through the content that you're putting out there. It's just all about being a trusted advisor and effectively working for that client at a price that kind of really fits. But if you're producing something that's really valuable to the client, then the cost of that, I suppose, is somewhat secondary. And then I think it's actually one of the final slides actually is on communication. So when we've now kind of refined the way that we're going to be speaking with clients through those marketing kind of streams, we've also now looked at our pricing model. We need to communicate that effectively with clients a bit more directly, I suppose. And the key thing with this is maybe call campaigns. So when we're speaking with clients, we can start to sort of set up meetings, for example. And in those kind of conversations that you might be already having, we're looking to discover a bit more about those clients. So it's empowering your team maybe with open-ended questions to really understand what that client wants. And I mentioned kind of through these previous slides, presenting a report to a client that just simply is a report that you send out to all clients isn't necessarily going to be the way that the client kind of wants, or isn't necessarily what the pain is for that client. As I mentioned there, you are the NHS for SMEs at the moment. They're certainly out there, and it's going to be a difficult time ahead with like furloughing being released and bounce back loans at some point being have to be repaid. So the more clearly we can communicate, but then listen to the clients, that can really help us mold the, I suppose, marketing strategy and mold the way that we engage with those clients. And then finally, it's always about prescribing that solution. So when we are, because I suppose you as the accountant are certainly the kind of person with the financial knowledge, the real background in the numbers behind the business. So therefore, sticking with the analogy of the NHS, you're kind of the doctor looking through the issue, and when you then come across the solution from speaking with the client, and you've reached this, I suppose, kind of end point, you're now going to recommend the solution. And that solution that I recommend to you would be a forecast to start to plan how you might repay that bank spot loan, for example. So it's not a service that's necessarily maybe even an option at that point, because we presented the value. The cost is kind of secondary. You're prescribing the solution to their problem. So therefore, if they're able to navigate through the kind of stormy weather ahead, if they're able to move office, if that's their plan at the end of the year, or they're looking to hire a new team to help them, if you can identify that pain, ensure that that pain is not going to stop those plans, and prescribe that solution to help them moving forward, then it's a win-win, really. Cool. That is all the slides I've actually got for today. Like I said, it's a nice, short and concise one. A couple of questions came through. Do feel free to whack them in the Q&A function if you have any from what we went through there. Like I said, I will share the recording and all the material that I think is useful for you guys to use. Cool. So yeah, that one question that trickled through is on how much content should we send out. So we talked a bit about like social media posts and such forth. Again, it really depends on, I suppose, the client base you're interacting with. But I think the key thing with communicating with your clients is that as long as it's valuable, as long as they're getting kind of clear, so it's instruction, it's not just material for the sake of material, it's material that they can, like I said, get direct value from, then daily posts can be absolutely fine. But speaking to those clients, understanding what they really want, I think is the key thing with all of this, because no client is the same, no marketing strategy is going to be the same for each business, but ensuring that we're listening to them and working through that, I think is an important one. Cool. Only one question came through, so there's not much else to add to that, then. Like I said, I'll send you out all the material, the recording of today. Do let us know how you found these sessions moving forward. Next week, we've got a session on forecasting, so a bit more technical, hands-on with the forecasting side. One question just come in. Thank you. It should be using our firm profile or personal profile on social media. So yeah, I actually kind of came across this question fairly recently as well. It's best to use it on your personal one, and you can always back it up sending from your company one. Obviously, the way that you kind of set up your LinkedIn and who's kind of addressed to it is an important one. So you need to be aware of who's on there. Do we have the kind of your correct client base on the correct profile and things? But I think you're being the trusted advisor. It's all about kind of you in a way. We can back it up with the company. And by all means, you might have a separate company stream that I know, for example, comes out of Featually. But I think that personal touch, which can then be reinforced for the company, is probably what I would recommend. Cool. I've got another question here. Same when sell the service, not the software, is vague. Do you have a list of services other firms market to help us to set up what services to sell? I'm just going to read that. Do you have a list of services that other firms market to help us to set up what other services to sell? Well, so I suppose it depends on your market and your area. So there's key apps that I know come up quite frequently. So Receipt Bank, for example, to be able to kind of get that data clean. Obviously, with Xavier as well has now been acquired by them, so that's really important. Go Cardless kind of is a key one that's used to process payments. Stripe and a variety of different ones. But again, I think it really depends on the kind of the client base that you're working with. Certainly, Future might be one of them, but we've got Zero and all sorts. So it really depends, I think. So yeah, in regard to those apps, I think it really just depends on kind of who you're working with. Cool. I think that is it. I did a couple dribbled through there, which is good. I'll send all the material out. You have my details as well. You have the support team at your fingertips as always. So do feel free to use them. As I was wrapping up there, another question came in. How many different social media streams do you recommend to use? Well, there's quite a few, isn't there? I think the main ones is what we use at Futurely, for example. So kind of where your clients really sit. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I think they're the real main ones to go with. So that's what I would recommend. As what I've seen has worked well. Is using those streams. Certainly Facebook has a real good place for the Facebook groups as a great way to interact with other clients. There's a variety of different groups in there that people speak about all different things. And you can also set up kind of groups for your own kind of business as well. So yeah, I think kind of the main hitters are the way. Certainly as well, Peer. So we've just released our own social community called Peer by Futurely. So if you search that on the App Store and also on Google Play, it's free to download, it's free to use. Like I said, you search Peer by Futurely. And that is a social community where you can share ideas. It's a strictly no selling space. So one of the reasons why it was built was by kind of Hannah's idea really is to have an area that we don't necessarily sell, but we kind of help support other clients. So whether it leads, then that could be into a good discussion that you could have. But yeah, Peer is also another great way to engage in your peers, really, with your clients or with other business owners, and share ideas and promote yourself. Cool. Thanks. No problem. Great. So I'll try to wrap up again. If any more questions come in, I'll answer them. But I'll send you all the material. Sounds like my dog knows that I'm wrapping up as well. He's going crazy. And I'll be in touch. Thanks a lot. Cheers then.